Swimming. It's an enjoyable pastime for many, but when it's done in the wrong spot, it can turn deadly quick. Drowning is the third leading cause of unintentional death in the world, and there are an estimated 236 drownings worldwide every year. Sometimes it's negligence, sometimes it's ignorance, but both times it's preventable. So take heed as we take a look at the top 15 most dangerous swimming spots. Number 15. Shark-infested waters, Shark Alley. While it should go without saying that swimming in shark-infested waters is probably not a good idea, people still do it. New Smyrna Beach in Florida is often referred to as the shark capital of the world and has more shark attacks than any other beach. It also has a lot of swimmers and surfers, despite these frightening statistics. The same goes for Bondi Beach in Australia. Bondi Beach has the second highest number of unprovoked shark attacks in the world, but it remains a popular beach for sun worshippers alike. And the famous Shark Alley in South Africa sees a massive amount of great white sharks swim through the narrow channel. It sees a lot of cage divers, some of whom swim outside of the cage, although it's actually illegal to swim freely in Shark Alley without a permit. In any case, sharks pose a very real threat to swimmers. There are roughly 72 unprovoked shark attacks per year worldwide, which may not seem like a lot, but when a shark does attack, the outcome is often pretty horrific. Number 14. Whirlpools, the Saltstraumen Strait. Although the thought of going round and round in a whirlpool may sound like fun, it's best to just imagine it while you watch from a safe distance. Whirlpools are formed when two or more currents that are flowing in different directions meet up. When they do, the waters of the different currents begin to swirl. If the currents are strong enough, they force the water to spiral downwards. See that empty space in the center of the whirlpool? That's the vortex, and yes, it has the power to pull things under, including swimmers. Now, admittedly, most whirlpools are not strong enough to be dangerous, but some certainly are. Strong whirlpools are called maelstroms, and some maelstroms, like the strongest one in the world that forms in the Saltstraumen Strait in Norway, are strong enough to damage a large vessel. And while the biggest and fiercest whirlpools are in the ocean, whirlpools can form in rivers too, and in large lakes, and at the bottom of waterfalls. Mesmerizing and hypnotic to watch, yes, but not something you want to swim in. Number 13. Low-head dams. If you see a low-head dam, steer clear. Although the water may look calm and inviting, there's nothing further from the truth. Low-head dams are extremely dangerous, and they pose a very real threat to swimmers. The flows over the dam can create extremely strong turbulence and recirculating currents. This turbulence and these currents are known to push swimmers under the water and then pull them back to the dam in a cycle that keeps repeating. Even the very strongest of swimmers have drowned at low-head dams, as well as people who are wearing flotation devices. Low-head dams aren't always marked clearly and can be really hard to see. Kayakers and swimmers can come up on a low-head dam unexpectedly. If you see one, exit the water at a safe distance from the dam. The further away, the better. Never try to go over one, and never try to rescue someone from a low-head dam. 25% of drownings at low-head dams are from rescue attempts. Number 12. Rivers. A river is an appealing way to cool off on a hot day, especially when the river has a nice little river pool or swimming hole. However, rivers have hidden dangers and are one of the most dangerous bodies of water to swim in. In fact, rivers and streams take more lives annually in Australia and New Zealand than any other body of water. The currents in rivers can be deceiving. The river may look a lot calmer on the surface than it actually is. Many people underestimate the strength of river currents. Rivers also often have hidden debris, like sharp rocks and submerged logs, and swimmers can become trapped by this debris. Rivers change from day to day, so they can be much faster and stronger one day and calmer the next, so changing conditions only exacerbate this problem. The safest rivers are the ones that are shallow, with clear water so you can see the bottom, have slow-moving currents, and are easy to get in and out of. Number 11. Beaches with lethal jellyfish, Whitsundays Beach. Sometimes it's not the water itself that poses a risk to swimmers, it's what's in the water that's dangerous. For example, some of the waters around Australia are considered the most dangerous waters to swim in because of the high concentrations of jellyfish. Some jellyfish will only pack a painful sting, but some types of jellyfish, like the box jellyfish, the lion-maned jellyfish, and the irukandai jellyfish, can be lethal. And while jellyfish can make an appearance at a lot of different beaches, some beaches notoriously have more jellyfish than others. For example, Volusia County Beach in Florida is known for having a high concentration of jellyfish, and Whitsundays in Australia has a lot of box jellyfish, which are particularly problematic given their potentially lethal sting. Want to avoid getting stung? It's recommended that swimmers wear a sting suit at beaches that have a lot of jellyfish. Number 10. Contaminated waters, Bajo de Haina. Going for a swim at Bajo de Haina in the Dominican Republic is out of the question. Also known as the Dominican Chernobyl, the beach is full of trash. Nearby chemical and pharmaceutical plants emit very high levels of lead, ammonium, sulfuric acid, and formaldehyde, which seeps into the water. And sadly, this polluted beach is just one of many in the world. For example, Guanabara Bay beaches in Rio de Janeiro is polluted with human sewage, and the waters at Juhu Beach in Mumbai, India, consistently contain fecal bacteria, which can cause typhoid fever and hepatitis A. But toxic waters aren't the only things swimmers need to be aware of when taking a plunge. Some beaches also have water that's contaminated with E. coli. Swimming in water contaminated with this bacteria can cause ear, nose, and throat infections, as well as gastrointestinal illness. Water prone to E. coli contamination is tested often, and when the levels are too high, the beaches are closed. Beachgoers should always obey signs and beach closures for their own safety. Number 9. Underwater caves, Jacob's Well. For divers, exploring underwater caves is a thrilling and adventurous pastime. But underwater caves can be very dangerous, especially for inexperienced divers and swimmers who can become disoriented and get lost while trying to swim through the maze-like caves. And while some underwater caves are simple and don't pose much of a threat, some are extremely dangerous. For example, Jacob's Well in central Texas looks fairly unassuming at first glance, but it holds the entrance to a massive underwater cave system that takes divers down more than 130 feet below the surface of the Earth. More than 9 people have died while trying to traverse the underwater cave system, earning Jacob's Well the title of one of the most dangerous cave systems in the world. Other dangerous underwater cave systems include Kilsby Sinkhole in Australia, the Devil's Springs in Florida, and the Orda Cave in Russia. Number 8. Shore breaks, the Bonsai Pipeline. For surfers, there are few things exciting as a massive wave, but for the average swimmer, beaches with crashing waves can be extremely dangerous. The Bonsai Pipeline in Oahu, Hawaii, for example, boasts some of the biggest waves on the planet. These waves crash onto a sharp, shallow reef, making for some of the deadliest waves in the world. Likewise, Praia do Norte in Portugal has waves that rival the height of a skyscraper, and Cape Fear, just 20 miles south of Sydney, Australia, is home to the Red Bull Cape Fear surfing competition, chosen as such for its massive waves. And while these beaches boast some of the biggest waves around, some ordinary beaches can also pose a threat to swimmers. A shore break is when the waves break directly on the shore. They can be very powerful, and the sheer force of them can cause injuries, specifically to the cervical spine. So while it is best to be wary of all waves, shore breaks are especially dangerous to the average swimmer, since they happen at a lot of public beaches. Number 7. Undertows. An undertow is the undercurrent that's moving offshore when waves are approaching the shore. Undertows are often mistakenly called rip currents, but they're not the same thing. Rip currents pull you away from the shoreline, while undertows, as their name suggests, pull you under. So basically, an undertow is an underwater current. Waves move forwards towards the shore, and then a current is created under the surface of the water, and this takes the water back to sea. Undertows are strongest in water that's only a few feet deep. When you stand with your toes in the sand at the edge of the water and feel the pull of the water wash over your feet, that's an undertow. They aren't deemed as dangerous as rip currents, but in the right circumstances, undertows can pose a threat to swimmers. Children especially are vulnerable to undertows because they often aren't strong enough to swim back up if they're pulled under. Number 6. Red tides. Red tides are aptly named, given their red appearance. And while they may look pretty, these colorful tides bring a wealth of problems with them. They're also called a harmful algae bloom, or HAB. Red tides are made up of phytoplankton or microscopic algae. The algae multiplies rapidly, and this is very harmful to both marine life and to humans. Most commonly, there are some phytoplankton that produce potent neurotoxins, and when we eat food that's been affected by these phytoplankton, we can get really sick. In some cases, paralytic shellfish poisoning can develop and can be life-threatening. So eating things like mussels, clams, and shellfish is the most common way humans are affected by these red tides. However, swimming in red tides can also be very dangerous, since red tides cause rashes, sore eyes, and breathing problems. So do not swim, boat, or drink from any body of water that has red tides. Number 5. Beaches with quicksand. Morecambe Bay. The idea of quicksand might send your mind to some sort of fictional movie where a person trapped in the quicksand slowly sinks while onlookers desperately try to save him by passing him sticks or vines. But at Morecambe Bay in northwest England, locals know all too well that quicksand is very real. Morecambe Bay is notorious for its quicksand. The beach has thick, wet, sludgy sand that worsens as the tide comes in. Every year, dozens of people get stuck in the sand and need to be rescued. Unfortunately, not everyone is rescued, and many people have drowned. The Morecambe Bay cockling disaster on February 5, 2004 saw at least 21 Chinese immigrants lose their lives when they became trapped by fast incoming tides. Now, you can't actually sink all the way under in quicksand the way the movies would have you believe, but you can get stuck, and if the tide's coming in, it could spell disaster. Quicksand can form along many coastlines, and there's usually no way to know it's there until you're stuck. The best thing to do if you find yourself stuck in quicksand is to stay calm, try to distribute your weight, and try not to move. Number 4. Lightning. Lake Maracaibo. If you're swimming and you hear thunder, exit the water immediately. Water conducts electricity, so if lightning strikes the water you're swimming in, you can get severely injured or even killed. And while most lakes and bodies of water will see a thunderstorm from time to time, some see a lot more than others. Take Lake Maracaibo in Venezuela, for example. Not only does this lake see a lot of lethal lightning, it sees more than any other place on Earth. Lake Maracaibo is the lightning capital of the world. It holds the Guinness World Record for the highest concentration of lightning, with an average of 233 flashes per square kilometer every year. The lightning comes from an atmospheric phenomenon called Catatumbo lightning. When in full swing, lightning flashes from 16 to 40 times per minute. Needless to say, this is not a safe place to swim. On the contrary, a lake underneath the sky of lightning is clearly one of the most dangerous swimming spots on the planet. Number 3. Lakes with changing weather systems. Victoria Lake. One minute it's sunny, the sky is clear, the water's calm, and you're enjoying a leisurely boat ride. But before you even know what's happening, the weather turns. Clouds roll in, the winds pick up, and you find yourself caught in giant waves. Unbeknownst to some, weather can change very quickly on some lakes, and the changing weather often catches people off guard. People become caught in a storm, and they don't even see the storm coming. Lake Victoria in Africa is notorious for rapidly changing weather systems. It's also notorious for drownings. In fact, Lake Victoria is often called the most dangerous lake in the world. It's got the highest rate of drowning worldwide, with about 8 drownings per 100,000 people. It's estimated that around 5,000 people drown in Lake Victoria every year, and bad weather is the main culprit. Part of the problem is that there are a lot of fishermen on the lake who fish to earn a living. They often can't swim, so when the weather shifts and their boat capsizes, they find themselves in danger. But tourists and locals also go out on the lake too, even though swimming is not recommended. Number 2. Water that is too cold. Some people prefer the tepid temperature of a heated pool. Others prefer the refreshing blast of a nice cold lake. Well, both are fine. If you go too far in one direction, you could find yourself in danger. For example, you clearly can't swim in the scalding hot water of Boiling Lake in Dominica, nor the steaming waters of New Zealand's Frying Pan Lake. You also wouldn't want to take a dip in the world's coldest lake, Lake Baikal in Russia. But the temperature of a lake isn't always so obvious, and water that's too cold is a very real cause of drowning. Now, we all know that jumping in Arctic waters is a surefire way to get hypothermia, but what a lot of people don't know is that water doesn't really need to be that cold to cause drowning. Any water that has a temperature below 70 degrees Fahrenheit is considered too cold because it can cause cold shock. Cold shock happens when someone's immersed in water that's too cold. The temperature shocks the body. Gasping and difficulty breathing, the inability to think clearly, and hypothermia can all ensue. And even more terrifying is that 60% of people who are immersed in water that it's too cold die within the first minute. Because when they gasp, they take in too much water, and often people that jump into the cold water didn't know the water was that cold, because the temperature outside of the water can be really warm, which is misleading. For example, it's not uncommon for people to be out on a boat enjoying the sun, working on a tan. They feel hot, so they decide to jump in the lake. But the temperature of the lake is a lot colder than they realized, and the cold shocks them. Sadly, cold shock accounts for a lot of drownings annually, but it can be prevented. It's recommended that people always test the waters before fully submerging in it, wear a life jacket while swimming in open water, and read up on any body of water before swimming in it. Number 1. Rip currents. A day at the beach is a sought-after outing for most, but if you find yourself in the grips of a rip current, the day can turn ugly fast. Rip currents are a specific type of current that's found close to beaches that have breaking waves. Rips, as they're also called, are narrow, localized, and move away from the shore. These currents act like a river that cuts through the breaking waves and out to sea. Rip currents are their strongest near the surface of the water, and these dangerous currents on average account for an estimated 46 deaths per year. Rip currents do not pull people under, but rather they carry them away from the shore. The reason people die in rip currents is often because they try to swim against the current and then become exhausted. However, you can escape a rip current by swimming diagonally towards the shore away from the rip. Rip currents can often be seen from the shore. The surface is sometimes foamy, and the rip might have a different color than the water surrounding it, and the current can look like a road or a river running out to sea. Some beaches are notorious for these rip currents, such as Hanakapiai Beach in Hawaii, which is one of the most dangerous beaches in the world, and Playa de la Muerte, Zipolite Beach in Mexico, where the rip currents are so strong, its name means Beach of Death. Rip currents account for a lot of deaths worldwide, and they're very common, which is why the rip currents have ripped their way into the top spot on this list of 15 most dangerous swimming spots. Watch our Waves playlist for more top 15 videos about massive waves. Sit back, relax, and binge watch all of our best wave videos.